everybody can hear me. I'm doing this for the sake of for the H Bros. Shout out to Hurt Bros for coming out and making sure we set up this platform for the town hall today. We are at Fuse Fest. So for those of you who have not been familiar with Teams with a Purpose and the amazing work that they're doing, they have been cultivating this festival for the past few months. So give yourselves a round of applause for making this your first session of the day. They hit the little. Yeah. All right. But we do have different candidates coming out and different people to come out to share their platform today. As y'all know, the qualitative feedback that's been expressed in our community is making sure we're prioritizing the needs for not only mental health resources, access to resources, addressing the poverty, hunger, and homelessness in our communities, as well as the gun violence. So we want to make sure today, if you have questions, make sure that you get them to our presenters and our moderator so we can make sure we have an engaged conversation. Civic engagement is absolutely our duty as a community. So making sure that we prioritize these platforms because Teams with a Purpose has been working hard to cultivate this Fuse Fest. So the amazing enrichment opportunities we have, make sure y'all rotate through them and make sure you get your card signed at the end of this. But appreciate y'all for being here today. And without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. JP, we appreciate you, brother.
All right.
Doctor, what's going on? Let me put this down over here a little bit. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
How you doing? All right. Good afternoon. How's everyone doing today? All right. We need a little bit more energy. You know, this is an energy thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Our ancestors endured many things and made many sacrifices for us to get to a day where simply it's our turn to begin this process all over again. We are the solution and we are the answers to the issues that are going on in our community. So when we have candidates that are running for these positions, I know it's a whole lot going on with the presidential elections, and I know that we have people here that are ready to support the first black woman as president for the United States of America. We want to keep pushing that. But your local elections are the elections that impact your lives and the people that you can see and touch. And us, your local leadership, are the leaders that you get to see and touch and share information with. We're in a transitional, pivotal point right here in Ward 4, which is where most of our poverty, if not all of our poverty, is concentrated in the city of Norfolk by a very large percentage. Our schools are suffering. Our resources are lacking. We have to reinvent how the government serves us. And we have to learn their language better to teach them our language as to what it is that our portion of these funds need to go to. We cannot continuously do business as we've done before and expect these situations that we're dealing with to get better that have gotten worse progressively year after year. And then at the table of equality, we're left further and further behind because of lack of education, because of lack of resources, and because of the impact of the stacking of trauma on top of trauma. So when you talk to these local candidates, ask them how they're going to work with the present leadership that you have chosen for Ward 4 and for Ward 3. That's a very important question. What is your plan? Not what is your platform. What is your plan? Do you understand us as a people? Do you understand our issues and the things that are going on? This is pivotal. I've tried to stay silent and allow for people to get out, campaign, and wanted to take the basis of what the people saw. But I can't remain silent anymore. I must share information with the people as to what's going on so we can make sure that the candidates are prepared. We don't need anybody else that thinks that they're somebody because they've been elected. If you weren't somebody before, getting elected will not make you somebody. We need people that are ready to serve in a time where it appears as if everything is great and equal, but we know that there's a great divide for what it is that we need in our communities. We need people that are not afraid to fight and people that are not a part of this coalition that goes out and already has their mind made up as to decisions that are be made based upon something other than the needs of the people. So I need you to pay attention to these local elections. I need you to pay attention to what these local candidates say, because these decisions that you make are going to impact your life directly. All right? So without any further ado, I think I've been a little bit more than timely, but I wanted to make sure that you were inspired. Also, we have our Senator, Angela Williams Graves, who has just walked in. I want to give her a round of applause. All right. So who do I pass this microphone back to
Got
at this
the
time?
mic. There we go.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, so let's get started. So for everyone on camera and here, all of the candidates will have 10 minutes to respond to 3 pre-selected questions. Our goal is to have audience interaction, so we'll try our best to find time, if we can, to have some audience questions for you. In the case that we get to the 1 minute mark, I'll try to flash a 1 in front of you just so you know. But other than that, how you feeling?
I'm feeling fine.
All right, right now we have Dr. Ron White, and he's running for a school board candidate. So we're going to jump into the first question. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So what improvements do you plan to make in our district schools and the district vision? And essentially what we're asking is, what is your plans?
Well, one of the things that I find extremely interesting, this year at the top of the year, I had to get my son enrolled in a middle school. I happen to know how to navigate the system a little bit because I've been in education for about almost 30 years now. I knew what to do. I knew how to do it, but it was difficult. And he just happened to get admitted by lottery. It was a random draw. From that, I learned that so many other young people were excluded from that lottery process who really wanted to attend that particular neighborhood school. This whole lottery thing bothers me to no end. I really believe that every child should have access to a quality school. Right now, we only have 3 designated anywhere near quality in the city of Norfolk, almost none in Super Ward 7. And so one of my plans is to ensure, even using the governor's new ranking system, it's not even a rating system, it's a ranking system, where they're going to give like hotels 5 stars for the best school. We want to make sure that all of our children go to schools that have 5 stars and that are safe and that are places where students can learn and can thrive. And so that's one of the things I want to do. I believe it's best done from a bottoms-up approach as opposed to tops-down, where the superintendent kind of has some guidelines and then that person tells the principals what to do. I think the principals and the community, we know what our individual schools need, and the school board needs to work with the individual schools to develop and build successful school models.
Very good. And thank you for sharing your own personal experience involving that. So speaking of schools and children, let's pivot over to a question more about mental health. So what do you believe that mental health has been, or why you believe it's been declining rapidly in children? And now this is a 2-part question. And what is the role of schools in responding to this? And what we want to point out before you do answer that is we want answers prior that predates COVID. So we want to understand the declining prior to COVID-19, because we know that took a strain on all of the population.
Right. So, there are lots of things. Our communities have been losing, in terms of having access to food insecurity issues. These were exacerbated by COVID, but everything already existed. Gang violence in our schools, making it unsafe for many of our children to even feel comfortable walking to school. And so there are lots of issues that have existed in our schools and in our communities. And but I just love the fact that every day I'm learning more about a community resource, including Teens with a Purpose, our community food banks and things that are helping. But I would love to see more integration of the community-based programs inside the schools. I don't know why there's this big divide where people don't feel safe collaborating or working with one another, but that's one of the things that I would love to see. Can you tell me part 2 again to that question?
No, it's 2 parts. You got to ask again, right? So what is the roles of schools in responding to mental health challenges for children?
So I definitely want to piggyback off of, how these things have exacerbated mental health. So when you think about trauma, you think about students suffering loss. That's number one, loss of homes, loss of income, parents losing jobs. And how does this affect children and their mental state? And so we know that our children are affected by these things. We see it showing up. My own teaching philosophy is that every child wakes up in the morning wanting to be successful. Something happens on the way. From that time they wake up in the morning to the time they walk in their classroom that sometimes throws them off. They'll end up in fights with the teacher. They'll be fighting other students. They'll sometimes be disagreeable, not wanting to cooperate when they get to school. And I do believe that all of us, even if you have children or not, we're all stakeholders in this process. Mental health has to be everybody's business. It has to be all of our business, whether you have a niece, nephew, or no children at all. And I do believe that our churches have resources that can be used to help alleviate some of the mental health issues. Again, community programs like this where children can come and, have freedom of expression to draw and to paint and to sing and just, let some of these feelings that they're harboring loose. And so that they can come and communicate these things to people who actually want to hear and listen. We just have to work together to partnership. So I do believe that schools have an integral part and a required mandate to address mental health issues. I would also like to see all of the teachers trauma informed. I am noticing every day that teachers are sometimes taking the behavior of students personally. It has nothing to do with you. And so the idea is that when you have a trauma-informed lens, you know that the child is coming with certain hurts and pains and suffering, and you don't take that personally. You help them navigate and self-regulate and think it through. And when they learn to do that, they'll become productive adults. So it's everybody's business.
No, I love that. Those are really great points. And something you said, you talked about division, everyone being in their own echo chambers when it talks about the school systems, parents, students, teachers, and so forth. And then you talked about stakeholders and partnerships. So the question I have for you is, where does your loyalty lie as far as a school board member?
My loyalty lies always with the students. My loyalty lies with the students. We have to be concerned about student outcomes, particularly in Ward 7. But I say that because, we all know, and I'm an engaged parent. I'm a helicopter parent. I have 3 boys. The youngest one is 10. So I'm there. But I also know that some parents cannot be as engaged as I am. I'm sure all parents are engaged, but I do know that some parents have responsibilities or lots of children or other circumstances where they can't be engaged. That does not mean that those children shouldn't be supported. The school division still has to support the children whether their parents are engaged. For example, even if a parent didn't know about all of the resources that a school like Norfolk State has, there's one particular program that if you live within so many miles of Norfolk State, you go to school for free all 4 years. But the idea is that a parent may not know that, but it's still the school's responsibility to ensure that child knows that. Teenagers understand what resources they have. And we act, as they say in Latin, in loco parentis, we act in place of the parent to make sure that the children get the best outcome. So my loyalty always lies with the success of our children in Ward 7.
Oh, I love that. I really do love that. So based on everything that everyone's heard, we do have time for some audience questions. So if anyone has a question, feel free to come up to the mic. Please, gentlemen.
He was ready.
Hands up. And can you state your name for us as well?
I am the executor of the estate called Darrell Jerome Winding in all cap letters, created by the United States government, owned by the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Okay, excellent.
My question is when y'all gonna stop siding with the students and start siding with the teachers?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't think that the idea is that we take sides. We should be working together.
When y'all gonna start working with us teachers?
Well, that's what I'm going to say. I'm a math teacher. I'm a 28-year.
All right.
Oh, wonderful.
Math in the house.
I'm a 28-year veteran math teacher. I have never felt that people working against me. I think sometimes that we just need to come together and make sure that I'm here to show up for your children. You're here to show up for your children. And as long as all of us are here working together, we can succeed. Now, I do know there might be some policies in terms of the school division that may not favor the teachers. Now, number one is that has to come through the school board. Like, teachers have to show up. I just learned that there's one particular policy that prevents mothers from having children during the school year. Like, it kind of promotes people to have their children in the summer so they won't be absent during the main year. Now, that's a policy issue. That's one that I know about, and because I know about, that's one of the first things I'm going to address. I've already put it on the platform of the current school board, but as long as we hear it and it's visible to me, I will do my best to support teachers. I at Norfolk State, my job is to create more math and science teachers, so I'm always on the side of the teacher. If I cannot be on the side of the teacher, I can't recruit young people to be teachers. So yes, I will do everything, but we have to know what the issues are. I'm sure. And I love to hear it.
All right. Thank you for that question. Do we have anyone else? Please come on up. State your name first and then with the question.
Good afternoon. Leon Judge, candidate for Norfolk City Council, Super Ward 7. My question as far as education is in regard to block scheduling.
Yeah.
I was a teacher in Newport News, and I just want to know how you feel about it. And I want to just ask you to expound upon this thought that I have about getting rid of it, because block scheduling is an hour and a half, and it's hard to have kids sit still, let alone in one spot,
Yes.
without having disciplinary issues and focus issues. So I just want to know your view on it, because
I do believe, yes, you have to be a well-trained and seasoned educator to keep people engaged for an hour and a half. When I went to school, of course, it was only 50-minute sessions, and I preferred that. But also, you took 7 classes every day, and you had homework in those classes every day. It never killed me. I think it, prepared me for college when I went. But if I had to, and school board members don't make this recommendation, I would prefer that we have a little more than 50 minutes, but not as long as 150 minutes. 100, I think it's 150. But also that the teachers have more support in the room. I think Norfolk is moving to an associate teacher model. It's okay. I like success coaches, and I believe that if I had 3 or 4 other people in my classroom helping me to make sure that my students were successful, that would be good and help them keep them engaged for an hour and a half. But not quite as long as an hour and a half, but not a little more than 50 minutes.
All right now. And you can also engage with everybody else after these conversations, sure, of course. But before we leave, we're over the 10-minute mark. I'm going to ask everyone this, if we can. One liner you want to leave for the group that represents you as a candidate.
Quality schools for every child.
All right now. So can we all give it up for Dr. Ron White? Thank you. Now, for everyone in the room, for the Fuse Fest, make sure you get a stamp from me so you can share.
Well, cool. Thank you guys for having me here. So my name is Lauren Stewart. I'm actually from Newport News, Virginia, and but I'm the political director for Kamala Harris for president. This is a very exciting time, guys, and that's all I can. Well, the biggest thing I can say is the excitement is all around the country, is all around the world. And we have all kind of ways to get involved. I just want everyone to make sure that make sure you're getting your information from the correct sources. If you're not sure of information that you see online, that you see on social media, do your research. Google, double check, check your sources. Make sure we're researching Project 2025. That we are informing people of what that means in your everyday life if we allow that to take hold of our country. But I will tell you that we have a massive amount of people in this country that are ready to fight for our freedoms and to fight for our rights. And we are not going back to a time where anyone is treated less than, or we do not have the unity that we should have in our country. Kamala Harris is the best candidate to bring us there. She is our DEI candidate, has definitely earned it, and we are ready to support her and to make sure she's our first African-American female president of the United States of America. So thank you for having me, guys. Make sure you go vote, register to vote, check your registrations, make sure you talk to all of your friends and family, and make sure they know how important this election is. Love you.
And welcome back, everybody. Just want to say thank you for everybody coming out to Teens with a Purpose with Fuse Fest. So we over here got our candidate right now, Leon Judge. We do want to make sure everybody know how important it is to vote today. The Hurt Bros is moderating, as well as we're moderating with
Miss Stacey Celestin at my Balbo.
And I love that name, Stacey Celeste.
Celestin is Creole, yeah.
There we go. Well, I'm going to let the candidate go ahead and introduce himself. Who do we have with us today?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leon Judge. I'm a candidate for Norfolk City Council, Super Ward 7. First and foremost, I want to let you know it's an honor and it's a pleasure to be here. And thank everybody for putting this event on, Teens with a Purpose. It is so detrimental for our young people in the community, and just showing gratitude for the culture and mental health.
Absolutely. No, we appreciate having you. For everyone in the room and who's online, the whole purpose of these conversations to, I would say, enlighten you on the people who could potentially represent you in the future. And those people on the local level are far more important than you think on a higher level. They decide what happens to your kids, to you, and your neighborhoods, and so forth. So thank you for tuning in. So what's going to happen here is we're going to have 3 pre-selected questions for you. We're going to try our best to have audience engagement if time permits. I'll give you a 1-minute warning and then a 30-second tap when we're there. We're going to try to be as open as possible, allow you to have the much time, but we got to be as concise as possible. Does that work for you?
Absolutely.
All right. So on that note, let's start with our first question. Okay. So if elected, Mr. Judge, what new initiative would you put forth with the power you'll have?
So first and foremost, I think that taking care of our communities is really a big deal for me, starting with the youth. And I think that, since COVID, a lot of things have been outsourced. So getting those resources back and taking care of the kids, starting with sports, because sports bring everybody together, but streamlining that to STEM programs, performing arts programs, and cultural programs that cater to our kids and the needs of them would be a really good place to start. And I look at it in this situation, if, we have money to build casinos, we have money to build bridges, then we have money for resources for our children. And a part of that is also with standardized testing. We have some of the lowest testing in the area from the research that I've done. So I would like to, bring people that specialize in those areas to help build our grade and our testing scores back up.
No, I appreciate that. And you talked about, you said something about children, and I want to bring in women into this conversation as well. So my second question is, when it comes to women and family safety and well-being, is that a priority in your budget plan? And if so, how?
Absolutely. I mean, the truth of the matter is, our woman is the strongest asset, not just in the community, but that God ever created, in my opinion. And
Agree.
The safety, the safety and the well-being, because she is the first teacher. And without her, obviously, we won't have life to be, able to carry on. So the priority to be able to provide safety, education, and resources for her is most definitely a must, as well as with the elderly, too. I'm really big on that. So as men, we do have to step up and be that strong unit in the community, and I'm big on that village. And I have a mentoring program.
Okay.
Mostly it's for everyone, but I do look for strong men that are successful to lead the way and to show how to be responsible, accountable, and also just to lead with guidance and show them how to be successful.
Okay, nice. So speaking of what I hear from you is community, when we think of family, places, and spaces. So speaking of that leads to the third question. So we know that throughout the country and within our own region, in 757, specifically Norfolk, money and development are entering poor and less developed neighborhoods. And things are changing demographically, economically, and so forth. So what are your plans for those who may be displaced? And what are your overall thoughts about it?
Well, it's unfortunate. They say this is the United States of America, but right now we're the divided states of America, and that's basically grossed on income, race, religion, these things. So it's up to us to create these, economic, and I'm a firm believer, and I have something that I have coming in the next couple of weeks where we have vendors coming in. We have financial advisors, educators, real estate moguls, and I think the first thing starts with education, right? Where, and I want to say African-American culture, we gross the most money, but we also spend the most.
Yes.
And we have to learn how to create a way to keep our money in-house. We have so many buildings in our neighborhoods that's been sitting for the last 15 to 20 years. It makes no sense that nobody has grouped together and been able to purchase some of these buildings, right? And I think, that's what great leadership comes in at, right? Somebody has this idea and somebody get behind it and be able to believe in it. I don't want to get too far off of your question about displacement. We should have an affordable housing act where these prices should be capped. These prices should be capped. The government does have, stipends and things of that nature. And, they have the money. So, these resources should be utilized in the proper way. And the way we do that with taxpayers' money is to take care of our people. We can't have everybody out here trying to scrape and scramble when it's the money of the people that's taking care of everybody anyway, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
You know,
It does.
we're one of the strongest nation financially in the world. We shouldn't be having people out here 8, 9, 10 years old figuring out where they're going to lay their head, and they can't even concentrate on going to school the next day.
No, that makes perfect sense when you look at the statistics around homelessness, especially when it's specific around teenagers. You know, being a TWP event, that's really important to hone into, to realize it is a big discrepancy as we continue to move as far as a nation. So on that note, I want to open up the room to the audience to see if anyone potentially has a question for our candidate here. All right, we do. We have one in the room. State your name, please, and your question.
I am the executive of the trust called Darrell J. Winder, all cap letters, created by the United Federal Corporation, owned by the Commonwealth of Virginia. My question is, I hear a lot of y'all politicians say the same thing over and over and over again. What makes you so different?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I don't, you know, what's different for me, I don't come up with a political background. You know, I've served in the Marine Corps for 5 years, 17 years in the Coast Guard. So my whole life has been active service. You know, I've been coaching basketball and playing since 2005. And for me, you know, I was one of those at-risk youth. So, you know, it was a way for me to stay out of trouble, stay out of the streets, and I just wanted to give that back. So, like I said, active service is my duty, and that's for the love. I don't do it for a position. I retired. You know, I came back out of retirement to serve the community because I know that was a need. And not only as a black man, but just as a person that serves God and want to take care of Norfolk and my community. So that's what makes me different, you know. It's really my duty to service. And if you look at my track record, I've been successful in both branches, highly decorated, and taking care of people is what I do.
Beautiful. I mean, that is a love language, so acts of service. So thank you for sharing that. So at this point, we're going to hand it off to you to give us one-liner about who you are as a campaign member.
Yeah, because you got 4 minutes left.
Okay. I like to get straight to the point, but, I think that 2 things I would like to leave, and one of them is I draw a lot of inspiration from Booker T. Washington. And when I teach my kids, you know, a lot of people don't understand Booker T. Washington was a man that walked 500 miles, you know, to Hampton University, and he was denied. He was turned away, you know. So that determination and that grit that you have to be successful, that's something that's internal, you know. And even though they denied him, he didn't, you know, he didn't waver. You know, he cleaned the library to the point where they had to accept him. And not only that, he was able to get his degree and become a professor. And then after that, he founded Tuskegee, you know, a well-established institute that still runs today. So a bigger part of my thing is, you know, I believe anything is possible. And that's my campaign slogan. And, you know, even if the cards are stacked against you, you know, they've been stacked against me. And but somehow, some way, you know, with the belief in yourself and the Most High, I'm here right now. And a lot of my friends didn't make it. A lot of them didn't make it past 16. So, and, you know, obviously I was one of those people they thought was going to be in jail, and but I didn't. So I'm a story of inspiration, of survival, you know, and I just want to pay that forward because the Most High has given me so many opportunities. I just want to be able to give that back to my community.
And that's beautiful. You are the living quote of anything is possible. So can we give a round of applause for City Council candidate, Mr. Leon Judge? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Still got time left. Anything else? One last thing?
No, thank y'all for having me once again.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. We have another candidate for you guys again. Before we continue, I do want to stress the importance of voting. Make sure everybody goes out, register to vote. There's outside, I believe there is a way that you can register to vote. Teens with a Purpose, huh? Say what now? Oh, she can't hear me. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss. Let me scream a little louder for you in the back. Yes, but yes, as I was saying, make sure everybody get registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote outside, you can go ahead and do that right now. It takes nothing. All they need is your ID, Social Security, your date of birth, everything that's personal to you. Let me stop playing. Let me start making jokes. But yes, we have another candidate. We have Philip Hawkins, Jr. I know a lot of y'all in here know this man. He is very popular around the area. I want to say that. I definitely already heard about you myself. And I do want to say thank you for gracing us with your presence. And I'm going to let her go ahead and answer the question since she's been doing good at moderating today.
Yeah. So for the mics, it's not going to hear in the room. They're going to hear it online, but we'll project as best as we can. But if you can't hear us at any time, just point to your ear and we'll make sure everyone speaks louder. Is that agreement? Agreement. All right. All right. So for everyone in the room and who's online, we will be providing questions. 3 pre-questions have already been ran through and approved, but we're going to hope that we can have one more question at the end if there is time for our audience member. So on that note, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. All right, let's get started. So if elected, what new initiative would you put forth with the power you have?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Philip Hawkins Jr., and it is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. I come to you with greetings from the community, for the community, and that's a great question. There are so many challenges that our city is facing. So where do we start? I feel that we must start with public housing or affordable quality housing for our communities. Many of our families and individuals in our city are homeless or what we called unhoused. We see many of them sleeping under bridges, sleeping under overpasses in brush. We encounter them when we're driving through the corridors throughout the city of Norfolk. And many of them are in our schools. We have families who are in housing transition, and they are still struggling, trying to get back on track post-pandemic. So my first priority would be to ensure that we examine every part of Norfolk, not just in Super Ward 7, but in the entire city of Norfolk. We need to look at opportunities to redevelop existing spaces and make them more affordable. Right now, we have so much new housing stock that has come online in the last 3 to 5 years. And many of those houses are not even accessible to many of our citizens because they are working. Many of them are working, or they require some form of a support and assistance, but it's still just not enough to make ends meet. So that would be my priority, to develop a plan, not just in isolation, but in collaboration with all of the members of council, because we recognize once you are elected to serve, you cannot be one vote and just one voice to get anything accomplished in the city of Norfolk or on any elected body or anybody that's appointed. We need to work together. So I would work to build consensus with my colleagues who are already serving on council, the mayor, as well as other partners in the community, nonprofit organizations who are already attempting to fill in the gap for the housing void that we see in the city. So that would be my first priority, because once we can get our families housed in stability and stable, then we can go to the next level. They can look for employment, and then they can also access education. But the great thing about it, Norfolk Public Schools, along with all public schools, have a program called McKinney-Vento, and that is the program that assists our families even through that transition so that they do not feel the front brink of just being unhoused or in transition. So that would be my first priority, to come up with a plan. And I believe we can do that. There are many developers who want to develop, but sometimes they're met with challenges in terms of zoning, in terms of ordinances that restrict their access to build where they feel they should build. If they own property in the city of Norfolk, Norfolk needs to rethink that. And I'm also excited that currently I have been appointed to serve on the Norfolk 2050 committee for the city of Norfolk. That is the 25-year strategic plan.
Congrats. Yeah.
And so I encourage everyone who's listening and watching to go to Norfolk's website. They have a special website designed for our new strategic plan, which has not been completed. But we need to hear from each and every one of your voices on what you would like to see Norfolk look like in the vision for the next 25 years, because that will be for our children and for their children. And so that would be nfk2050.com. If you reach out to that, and I'm on the committee, please reach out to me. I'll be glad to share your ideas at the next committee meeting that we will have with the city.
Oh, I love that. I've heard a few cues for the next question around like housing, which is associated with well-being, and that's all parts and realms of a family, from the father, the child, and so forth. You've probably already answered this, but I want you to clarify for me for the second question is, Are women and families' safety and well-being a priority in your budget planning? And if so, how?
Absolutely. I am a part of the Norfolk Public School system. I have been an educator in Norfolk Public Schools for 27 years. I am currently the assistant principal here right in the Young Terrace community at PB Young Senior Elementary School. So in my role as an assistant principal, I work with families and students every day in the community. And so the ideas that are coming from the schools, we have to collaborate, not only in isolation and silos, but we need to work together with other agencies within the city. And I am so excited that the city, along with support from our superintendent and our school district, we have developed a special program called Equity and Excellence Learning Centers, EELCs. And those schools have been identified, and PB Young is one of the 4. The other 3 are Jaycox Elementary School, also Ruffner School, Compass Academy, and also Booker T. Washington High School. So all of our schools have been funded this school year that will start in 2 weeks with a program that will provide wraparound services for parents, for mothers. Many of our mothers are holding it down, so hats off to the women who are still doing what they need to do, bringing their kids to school no matter what, going out working, looking for daycare. So my plan would also include making sure we partner with other agencies and nonprofits in the community, making sure they meet criteria and standards to hold and be able to be a legal daycare provider, because we need more affordable daycare so parents can go to work, so parents can go to school. And that's what I see. Many of my parents, when they see they're having problems or challenges being there for their kids, they quit their jobs. And they say, I can't work anymore because my child needs support in the schools. And so that's unfortunate, but we need to fill in the gap in those issues so that we can make the family whole once again.
Yes, sir.
So that would be my start, to partner with our schools, with our social service agencies. The EELCs will be providing wraparound services with other organizations. So I encourage all of the nonprofit organizations to reach out to those schools and partner with them with mental health services. We have school counselors and social workers who work independently, but they can come in and work with our schools. Tutoring programs, you can work with our schools so that our kids can receive the support and services they need. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. So this leads to the third question, because you've talked about the housing crisis. We talk about issues regarding just women and themselves, their rights and their accessibility to just resources that helps them with not only their own family, right, but the community as a whole. So this leads to the third question around the economy in itself, and just how you'll just delve into it is, we know that throughout the country, within our region, 757, money and development is changing, especially for underdeveloped communities. So the question for me or for you is, what are the plans that you have for those who will be displaced, which you kind of touched on already, and what are your overall thoughts about it, if you could hone into other areas that we probably should focus on that you haven't discussed already?
Well, workforce development opportunities need to be in our communities, plain and simple. We should be bringing those programs to the community. They should not have to go to agencies throughout the city to find those services. I think we need to have a one-stop shop. And I think that was the thinking of Norfolk Public Schools when they decided to identify those schools that have a high concentration of minorities and women and families that need those support services so they can get back on track. It's almost like leveling the playing field. So we definitely need to have workforce development programs to come into the schools, because guess what? Parents are going to bring their kids to school. They're making attempts to bring their kids to school. They are, and they're faced with many challenges, access to health care. Many of the times they're accessing the health care through the state insurance, but guess what? Many of the providers don't want to provide the services anymore, so they don't want to accept the insurance. And so they're backlogged. So we need to make sure that we work with our community partners in the medical profession, Centera, all of our local health organizations that are providing services, and making sure we bring them to the community. There was a program that was established in the Berkeley community where they have now a community clinic over at the banks of Berkeley, senior apartments over on Berkeley Avenue.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
I didn't know
so
that
and working with
existed.
Dr. Newby, that was a great program
he's a
now
great
because now
cardiologist.
we can bring health care to the community.
Yeah.
And then because if you're not healthy, you can't do anything else. You can't go look for a job if you have COVID-19. You know, if you're on your bed, on your back. So right now, we need to make sure we're bringing healthcare access, and then we can bring the job opportunities. We need to bring those centers to the community, not expect them to go find them. Because once they know they have access, they're going to get the jobs, and then having those educational opportunities, partnering with our local educational agencies of higher institutions of learning, Tidewater Community College, we have Norfolk State University, we have Old Dominion University. They're already doing things, but we need to increase those opportunities because right now there is an opportunity to go higher.
Oh, I love
And
that.
that's what we must do.
No, I appreciate that. So, I mean, your answers are credible, and we're like at the 10-minute mark. But what I would like to ask everybody is if you can leave just a one-liner of who you are and what your platform stands for the audience and those who are online.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to close and thank you all. Thank you so much for hosting this mini town forum right here at the headquarters for Teens with a Purpose. I'm excited because I worked with Teens with a Purpose over 15 years ago before they was given this building by the city of Norfolk with the Norfolk Youth Council. And so I'm so excited now at this time in 2024, there's more opportunity, but we must elect leaders who are proven and trusted in the community, and that would be me, Philip Hawkins Jr., for Norfolk City Council, Super Ward 7. So I hope that you will look at my resume. I'm an educator. I'm a community civic leader. I'm a former union leader, but most of all, I care about the people. I am for the people in Super Ward 7 in the city of Norfolk. I hope that I can earn your vote. Hawkins for Norfolk or Hawkins for citycouncil.com. You can find out more information.
On that
Thank
note,
you.
let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for being here.
Any questions from the audience? We want to ask an audience member a question?
We have time?
We could ask at least one. We can ask one. Anybody in the audience have a question?
We can open up. You got lucky, huh? You
I was
ready?
looking at my man's over there. He had a question.
So we're going to open it up. We have time for one question. Are you not questioning out yet? He's questioning out. All right.
Ask away.
All right, we do. We got one then. Let's go for it.
I'm the executive of the estate called Darrell J. Winder, all caps, created by the federal corporation owned by the Commonwealth of Virginia. My question is, since you've been on city council, what have y'all done to improve the lives of the residents in this ward here?
Okay, that question, I have not served on city council. I'm not a politician, so I can't answer that question. I can answer it in the eyes of, as a community leader, as an advocate. I have gone to Norfolk City Council, and you can look at 20 years plus archives on the City of Norfolk website to see that Philip Hawkins has spoken to the members of City Council. Most recently, in February of this year, I, along with leaders in Ingleside, we advocated for a rec center and a gym to be reopened. Many of the rec centers were not opened after we returned to in-person during the COVID-19 pandemic, which negatively impacted our children. And we see it even now where there's still many facilities. I heard my colleague say, who's also running, that those centers were not open. And that is a problem. But we did receive funding because of advocacy on city council for them and the city manager. They funded to reopen the Ingleside Recreation Center after we advocated for 4 years. And you can look at the last 4 years. We went to them 4 years and partnered with the Youth Athletic Foundation organization, Broncos, Jaguars, and other agencies to come in and get those centers reopened. So it will be reopening this fall for our kids, so they have a place to go. But we do need to hold every elected official accountable. And we have to be accountable as well as citizens. We can't vote for people and then choose not to engage. So my policy will be always open door. You can reach out to me. When you look online, you can reach me at my personal cell phone, text me is the fastest way. You can reach me, and I will respond to you.
All right now.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Once again, thank you everybody for coming out to see our mini town hall segment. Thank you for coming out to Fuse Fest. Thank you for contributing to Teens with a Purpose. This is, once again, with the Hurt Bros. My name is DeQuarius. I also have with me Miss Celeste. I hope I said your name right. And we have another candidate to present to you today. He is running for mayor. This is Giovanni. I'm going to go ahead and let him tell him a little more about himself.
Yeah, my name is Giovanni Domo. I've been living in Norfolk, Virginia for about 20 years now. I'm also, My name is Giovanni Domo. I'm candidate for mayor. Been living here for about 20 years. I'm a veteran. I moved here 2004 via Navy, and I've been here ever since. So it's a lot of changes that I want to make in the city. That's why I'm running for mayor.
Okay.
All right, so we're excited again to have someone. We're changing it up. We went from board, now city council, now mayor. For those who are in the room, who are online, we're going to ask 3 pre-selected questions. In this case, we're going to ask you the same questions similar to city council members. I think they're all relevant in this case. We're going to try our best to have audience questions if we can. I'm looking at you. And if not, we'll open the floor up to you for a little bit more if we have time. So on that note, let's go ahead and just get it started. So if and when you're elected for mayor, see how I did that, what new initiative would you put forth with the power you'll have?
I'm going to put the initiative to really lower crime in this community, in this city. I live in a community where crime is real big. People are shooting each other like it's nothing. And it's mainly our own, black and black crime is very high where I live at. I've seen grown adults pass weed to 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, right in front of my face, and no one's talking about it. All these issues, domestic violence, stabbings, all over our neighborhoods, and no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to do anything about it. The reason why I'm running is because I've been pushing with the city, the council, trying to talk to everybody about trying to lower the crime there, and they keep ignoring me. So I got tired, and I said, you know what, I'm going to just run for mayor. And I'm the one that advocated for the cameras. The cameras you see, I advocated for that. These LED lights that you see all over the city, I advocated for that. But no one's going to tell you that. I've been fighting for the city for so long. They take my ideas, put me in the corner, and I said, enough is enough. Let me run for mayor.
All right, I love that. You say, don't put baby in the corner. No, that's an old school for all you young Gen Zs. It's called Footloose. But what you did touch on, you talked about violence. And that is a real epidemic, I would say, especially for women and children. With that stated, the second question is along the lines of well-being. So are women and family safety and well-being a priority for you? And how do you plan to place that when it comes to budget planning if you were to become mayor?
That's a good question. So single parenting is a big issue for me, and a lot of single parenting in this community is mainly mothers. Mothers are single parents. I'm also a single parent. I had to fight hard custody for my children. What's going on is the legislation makes it very hard, difficult for men to be around, for women to receive a lot of help and resources. The men cannot be around. A woman can get Section 8 food stamp, but the father can't be around. That's a big issue in our community. As a leader in the city, I will try to change that, but you got to help try to change that with legislation and policies, where fathers can still help. Mothers need help. They can't always work. I think a gentleman mentioned earlier. Mothers are working and trying to keep the kids in school. That's a lot for one parent, versus having the other parent or family members that can actually help. So my goal is to build on legislation or policies that are going to help these parents to better equip their children to be raised in a better place, make more money, and make the economy better. If kids are working, my son is working at 15, my daughter's working at 16, 17 years old for the city of Norfolk, as a matter of fact. Kids can do it, but we as parents and we as leaders have to push that initiative.
Okay, no, that's great stuff. So I hear you reference economy and so forth. Let's talk about the economy as it stands right now for Norfolk, Virginia. Yeah. We know that across the nation, and especially in the 757 area, we can feel the impacts of the disadvantages of where we're going economically in low-income spaces and places, i.e. communities. So what are your plans for those communities that feel displaced, and what are your overall thoughts about it?
When you say displaced, do you mean more so of not feeling part of the community, not feeling part of the city?
So they could be twofold. It could be internally and externally, right? So we can say as far as just where they are, as far as community not having a place to house themselves. I had an individual talked about the housing crisis, right? Or even feeling that they're part of the community when it comes to Norfolk, Virginia, being representative as far as like who are their elected officials, the policies that are passed in place.
Yeah, so one thing about me, I'm a foot soldier. I like being boots on the ground with the community. Once you become a leader, right, you can't just sit in city council and just talk, right? You got to be boots on the ground, talking to the community. Like, for example, if there's a homelessness issue, what is the source of the issue? Is it income? Is it they can't find a job? Is it abuse? Is it a mental health issue? You know, we got to get to the core of the issue. Just talking about in general, oh, we'll find resources is not enough. You know, I've seen these issues in front of people. Some people have mental health issues. Some people just don't care to have drug addictions, you know. And some people are just raising it to the point where they don't want to work. So each case is different. So we have to find the source of the issue and actually fix it. My thought and philosophy would be more of get to the bottom of it and fix it, start fixing it from there. I can't make a general statement. I hate doing that when I don't know the source of the issue. Does that make sense?
No, that's fair. That's fair. No, thank you for that feedback. So on that note, we do have time for audience question. And if there's anyone in the room,
And do you
please
have
feel
questions?
free.
Yeah, he wanted me to ask one, so let me go ahead and throw my voice in
Go
there.
for it. I want to
Yes,
hear
sir.
it. Yes.
So my question is for you: how will you ensure transparency and accountability once if you do get elected?
That's a great question,
I like
and
that
that's
question.
a big issue that I have. Our leaders are not transparent with us. You know, one thing I would do is probably put like a YouTube channel for the city to tell you exactly what the resources are available to you. You know, when I was running for state senator, I put YouTube ads everywhere, and it didn't cost me much. So imagine what the city can do to put YouTube videos to let the community know what's actually available to you to actually help you, right? Instead of just rumors and putting it on the residents to find out for themselves. No, we're the leaders. You chose us to do this job for you, so let us lead and show you what's available to you, so you can utilize it.
Nice. Anyone
Question?
Oh, you want me to throw another one out
Yeah,
there?
throw another one
Yeah.
out there.
Unless we have one in the audience. And that's okay. There's no pressure.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
please. Could you come to the mic and state your name? Yes, it's interactive.
Okay, hello, I'm Josh Scott. My question for you is, as an outsider, since you aren't, currently in the city council or in politics, what are, I guess, major challenges that you think you may face in getting things done?
That's a very good question.
It's a good question. I think about that a lot. So a lot of the people, the leaders sit in the city council know each other. You know, they've known each other for years. Family know each other's. That would be my biggest challenge, is to be the outsider, to come in and say, hey, we need new ideas and new ways to actually help the city, when they're already in agreement, like, no, we're going to do it our way. And as mayor, that would be my only challenge, is challenging the commodity they already have, and the ideas they already have, when we can have better ideas to actually help the community.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So on that note, I'm going to open up the floor to you to give us a one-liner of who you are and what you stand for as far as your platform.
Yeah, my name is Giovanni Domo. I'm all about accountability and responsibility. And the only way I could do that, the only way you can help me help you by voting for me.
All right. Let's give a round of applause for Giovanni Domo
Thank you.
for mayor candidate.
Yeah.
We do.
All right.
We do.
Shout out to Hurt Bros for providing the platform. Shout out to Teams with a Purpose for providing the space and for what has been an amazing day so far. So y'all been rocking with us. We've been out here since noon. We've been out here earlier than that, but I'm glad that we have you here and coming out to be in the community, staying grassroots, boots on ground, man.
All right. And for those who are online or who are new to this room, we have 3 pre-selected questions. And if we have time, we want to open it up to the audience to hopefully ask 1 or 2 questions, again, if time permits. So on that note, Carlos, I'm going to pass the mic to you with the first question. You ready?
All right.
All right. So if elected, what new initiative would you put forth once you are placed in that position?
New initiatives. There's a lot of things. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. But I also encourage everyone to go to my website, carlosclantonfornorfolk.com. I can't tell you everything that I have down here, but you can definitely go to the website and check a lot of those things out. But when we look at housing, and I'll go into that one. The city is already, when we talk about affordable housing in this city, that is a true issue. And so I know the mayor and others have been working towards building a housing trust fund, but also one of the things when we look at right across the street at St. Paul's, I was a part of writing the CNI grant in Newport News, but also within STOP, being able to be a part of People First. I love the People First initiative because the thing is that we realize that people don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
And so when we empower our communities with information and empower them about knowing about financial literacy and credit, but then also taking it further, how do you invest and so forth, I want to take People First to a new level. Not just within our housing communities that have concentrated poverty, but how can we utilize that along with workforce development throughout the city of Norfolk? And so that's one of the things that I would say that would be in that framework is how do we take People First and expand it along with our workforce initiative across the city?
No, I like that. I like that. So when we talk about housing, that's obviously associated with well-being, right? Which ties to our second question, specifically around women and families and children. So when it comes to women and family, how is that considered a priority or part of your plan, and how do you budget for that?
Can you clarify a little bit more when you say women and family?
So women and family, I would say specifically women and family and children. Okay. So when we think about housing crisis and we think about, discrepancies, they are mostly affected when we think of the communities. So that's why we want to hone into this particular demographic.
So when you look at housing, one of the things that I learned when I worked in community action, I spent 6 years working in community action with HR CAP and then also with the Stop Inc. organization, which really focused on housing, education, employment, health, and those things. One of the things when we work with communities, particularly in a lot of the situations where you have single parents who have children, when we're talking about workforce development or trying to get you to the next level, it was a new term that I learned, and it was called the benefits cliff, where individuals, we get them to the next level, and we want them to get to the next level, but they've had this cushion around them for so long, it's that fear. Mm-hmm. So this is when I talk about going back to People First in that respect, with we're educating, we're empowering individuals so that when they get to that next level, they're ready. But then we also have to put resources in place. And I think that that's one of the things when you look at the Housing Trust Fund that the City of Norfolk put $2 million in the budget this year, we need to increase that. Because when I look at, and also putting policies in place that talk about rent control within the City of Norfolk, just because you go in and renovate a particular area doesn't mean that now you astronomically increase the rent that people can't afford to live there. And I think there's far too much of that happening in the city right now. So being able to identify contractors and developers in our city who we can work with, who want to build affordable housing. And there's a difference between affordable housing and, some people are like, oh, you're going to bring in such a, no. You look at Broad Creek right down the street. That is an affordable housing community where you have market rate along with subsidized housing, and you can't tell the difference. When you think about before, when there was segregation going on, in black communities, you had doctors, attorneys sitting right next to the mailman and the trash man. But that was a sense of community. And so one of the things that I constantly talk about the City of Norfolk is how do we bring back that sense of community as well? And so it doesn't need to be about what zip code or what section of the city you're in, but everybody deserves to have that opportunity. And so those are the things that I'll continuously work on. How do we come together, bringing people and listening to the people and making sure that we end up with results?
No, I like that. I like that. What you keep honing on is housing, which is really pertinent in this area, obviously tied to the economy, right? And we understand that the nation as a whole is going through it, 757 as well, specifically Norfolk. With that stated, we know that poor and less economical areas are hard hit by that. So with that stated, what are your plans for those who are or will be displaced, and what are your overall thoughts about approaching it?
So I talked about a little bit about that in respect of identifying developers who will build affordable housing, but then also we have to look at planning within the city. Right now, Norfolk has single dwelling homes or high-rise apartments, and the city's already done a plan that looks at that middle. We have to be open to other different types of housing situations, duplexes, quadplex, those different things like that, mixed-use development. Norfolk is, 95% developed? And so you've got to be creative in how we look at housing. And so the other component of that also is when we talk about displacement, I believe in also if we're going to tear down something, and we got to also believe, you got to know the history in Norfolk. So redlining, there's a lot of deep-rooted distrust, honestly, when it comes to when we talk about coming into a community and building up something new. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm Park Place, Lambert's Point. That's where I'm from. So when you go on Park Place right now, I remember as a kid growing up, I would ask my mom when we would walk through, it was like you had Park Place United Methodist, Park Place Baptist. And I was like, what? But Mom, these are all white folks in the middle of a black neighborhood. But how did that happen? And so when you begin to look at the city and the history, that's why I think a lot of times when we talk about bringing something new, people are apprehensive because they know about what has happened in the past. So I've always been that person. Even as I serve on the school board right now, we got to look at closing 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and a high school. I have adamantly said that we can't move forward until we talk with the people. This isn't bringing the people a plan. We have to walk with the people. We have to talk with the community, and the community has to be a part of this, and they have to have their input. So bringing it all together in that respect, when we talk about housing, we've got to make sure that the community is at the table. I know that there's been some requests about the St. Paul's Advisory Task Force and so forth, and about whether or not community can talk in the meeting. My thing is, it's always been, there are many different ways to communicate. If it's through email, going to the folks. As a school board member, I have been very engaged. I do a live every Sunday. I send out an e-newsletter. Those things are important because it's not just see me on election time and not do the work.
No, I appreciate that. Really good points. I do have a follow-up, but before I do, I want to leave it open to the audience first to see if we have any member who wants to ask you a question. No pressure. We do. And I swear for everyone who's online and in the room, we did not pay this man. He is just interacting.
I am the executor of the trust named Dura Winder, in all caps, created by the United States Corporation, owned by the Commonwealth of Virginia. That is my public name. I operate in the private sector. I'm a private citizen, as you might say. And on the private side, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of resources that we have that y'all don't let the people on the public side know about. Why is that?
So I'm running for office, and so can we clarify? No, come back to the mic for me. Clarify for me when you say resources that we don't let know. Are we talking about from school? Because that's where I'm elected, I'm serving. So are you talking about city council? I just want to make sure.
I'm talking about in general.
In general. Yeah. Well, I think that honestly, let me give you an example. Public schools. We give information through text message, email, website, and I'll be honest, sometimes it misses. I was community engagement for Norfolk Public Schools for 9 years, and the thing that I constantly preached was that we have to go where the people are. Mm-hmm. Sometimes public education, sometimes city government is intimidating. There's acronyms, there's words, all these different things like that. So you've got to go to people where they are. Like today, I'm sitting here where the people are to educate them and inform them and put them in an environment that isn't so stressful that they can learn and be able to get the resources. So my responsibility to that is that we're going to do more of that. I know that Councilwoman Danica Worcester has started doing things like that, and she knows that I'm going to be a candidate that will continue to do that, and that's why she's endorsed me. And so I'm going to continue to do that.
Okay, but that's on the public side. I mean, telling them information that they can learn, they can use as a private citizen. Like, for example, a lot of people don't know that all your bills are paid for. Your bills are paid for. All yours. You go look. No, you go look at your bills. It got payment coupon. That's a coupon you can take to the bank, deposit, and get the money. They're gonna pay your bills. Okay. See, they don't tell us that. Mm. You know what I'm saying? In private, in the public. But I know this in private because I studied it.
So if you don't mind, let me rephrase the question for you. Yeah. I think I'm gathering, picking up what you. So essentially, what I'm hearing is, knowing that there's resources out there that is for a private citizen, not necessarily something that's publicized. One, if you were to be elected as city council, how do you make that transparent so it can be resources that can be easily reached and monetized for those who are specifically in low-income areas? And what I'm hearing is there's, for example, spaces and places that allow vouchers that could cover individuals' utilities. Yes. Did I catch that? No,
that's spaces and places.
Yeah, I want to make sure. No, it's okay. I picked up what you dropped off and I rephrased it. Now, okay.
I'm talking about spaces and places. I'm talking about you can take your action.
Even hard, all the same. Gotcha. Okay. Now that might be a new program, and I would say this. I would say this for that. I think the question is still to be had. The question I asked, because I still think it's relevant to your question. I don't think today we can go into the nuances of all the different initiatives and degrees of it within our realm. But I would ask a question to just tailor what you're asking is, how do you how will you be able to provide access to those who don't necessarily know that it exists, what you don't know, what you don't know, and how will you create a platform in which they can access it?
So one of the things that, if you notice with Councilwoman Danica Royster, she consistently reposts and share information.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that I do even as a member of the school board, constantly putting information and sharing out there. Constituent resources, having a website where individuals can come and consistently look at that, not just the city, but putting it out there. But then most important, like I said before, being where the people are, going to your Civic League meetings, going to churches, building relationship so that we can share that information. Like an example, like people don't know that you can get a cell phone for free, right? There's a lot of free, and the thing about it is a lot of that came out of the infrastructure bill that was passed. And so how do you get that out there? And a lot of that is individuals. This morning I was at an event where there was a tent set up for information. So there are a multitude of different ways of getting that information out there. For me, I'm going to do what I've always done, and that's be there with the people and make sure that I share that information on all my platforms.
No, I appreciate that. And before we wrap this up, what I would like to ask, I've asked everyone at the end, is could you provide at least a one-liner of who you are and what your platform would stand for?
So I can just tell you this, that, look, I don't come with fancy words or a bunch of empty promises to you, okay? One of the things is I'm not chasing likes. Anybody who knows me that I've ever served is that I'm the type of person that when I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. We may not always agree, but we might agree that day, but we can work together the next day. I'm an individual who has served as a national civil rights leader, who's been here doing the work in our community, and the community knows that. And I continue to put that forth. As your next council member, if given that opportunity, I'll continue to take that same energy and level and commitment and continue what has been built upon with Councilwoman Royster and others. And so I hope everyone will vote for me starting on September 20th.
There we go.
Early voting, and take it all the way to November 5th.
Yeah, and here for voting registration, a plug at TWP.
Oh,
yeah, so just for everyone who is here in presence, that you can register to vote here. And in the event that you cannot access or don't have the time to do it in person, you can always go to vote.org, which is a partner of our company, the largest voter registration organization in the nation. It's really easy to put your information in, and it ensures that you can cast a vote when that time comes. So I'm going to hand it over to you before we end.
And you can utilize the information even if you aren't sure. If you aren't sure if you're registered to vote, please go up there and check, figure out who is in your respected area, and make sure that you are filling out the ballots for everything that you can vote for in your area, because that's important too. But we have to make sure that we're doing our research on our candidates and finding out what tangible resources that we can see, and it's beyond these campaigns. So we appreciate you for not only showing up.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have going on between now and obviously November that people can see you at? Anything grassroots that you plan on having?
There's a lot of things happening. Again, like I say, just go to Carlos Clanton, number 4, Norfolk.com. I'm doing a live every Sunday, 7 o'clock. Opportunity to ask me questions, engage. And I just look forward to engaging with the folks.
And then we'll get you on my Bible as well, so
I'm
you can go
looking
live.
forward to it. I love it.
Shameless plug, yeah. All right, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all for joining us. Make sure y'all go to Hurt Bros if you did not catch this stream.
Hurt Bros,
on YouTube, Instagram, and all social media handles. My name is Cameron Bertrand. I'm the CEO of Violence Intervention and Prevention. So y'all make sure y'all stick around for Fuse Fest. We got a lot going on. We still have some bleeding control demos going on outside as well.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody. We do have another candidate for you guys. We do have a special one. We got Mr. Rodney Jordan. I do want to say once again, make sure you go outside and register to vote if you're not already registered. Thank you to Teens with a Purpose, and also thank you, Mr. Jordan, for blessing us with your presence again.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this.
Okay. So I'm going to hand it over to my moderator, Charles. He got some questions for you.
All right. So first, do you want to, introduce yourself and let everyone know what you stand for?
Okay, sure. My name is Rodney Jordan. I've been a longtime resident in Norfolk. This is my grandson, Tariq Josiah. So you might hear him call me Ra-Ra, because that's what I'm known as, is Ra-Ra. And I've been working in Norfolk for quite a while on issues of equity and opportunity and justice and teen development. I'm no stranger to Teens with a Purpose. Spent a lot of time here as it moved to this building and has grown and expanded. So pretty much my theme as I run for city council on behalf of Ward 7 is, it's our city too, and it's our turn. And so it's been a lot of things that have taken place in the city for over the years, decisions that are made by council. They do matter. Your vote matters. we have to make sure that we do something a lot different. Right now, where we're sitting right here on Church Street in Olney, you take 2 blocks over and cross over Monticello, St. Paul's Boulevard. If you live where we're sitting right now, your life expectancy is 61 years of life. You go 2 blocks over, it's 83 years. So that's 20 years of life that we're talking about. And my expectation and my goal and my advocacy as a council is to make sure that we get our fair share so that the decisions that are made by the city help to uplift our community and not put a cap on our ability to rise.
Thank you for that. So what are your top priorities for the city, and how would you address them?
Well, as I mentioned, I think it begins with a mindset change. I believe for too long in our city and too long in Ward 7 in particular, we have accepted second-class status. We have been comfortable with where we are. So I'm a strong proponent of strong neighborhoods. I believe we need to change our mindset. Our children deserve the best. Our families deserve the best. I was speaking with a young lady who's maybe off screen to my right, who used to be my neighbor. And she knows growing up that just as I have my grandson sitting in my lap, I used to have his mother in my lap. And we used to walk up and down the block in the wagon and try to make sure that as a father, as a parent, as a homeowner, as a citizen, that his mother had the right to be able to walk streets safely. I believe he's going to be able to have that right to do the same thing. And so I just believe in trying to make sure that we have equitable policy. So in housing, I believe we need a fair share of housing. It is not fair for all of the opportunity housing to be concentrated in Ward 7. We need a wealth agenda. About 6-7 years ago, I did a workshop here, asked the teams with a purpose what they wanted in St. Paul's. They divided up into 2 teams. One team titled themselves Build Back the Block. The other team titled themselves Teams with an Opportunity. And they talked about owning the block. They talked about opportunity for children to gather like they're doing here right now. Those will be part of my priorities. Owning the block, owning the neighborhood, resident owning change, and for us to take a position of leadership and to make sure our voices provide the direction that the city needs to go.
That sounds amazing. So what's your vision for the arts and culture in our city?
So I'm a longtime supporter of the arts. Right there, down here, a block over, is the Martin Luther King Memorial. When my uncle was on city council, he proposed that monument in 1975. And as a family and as a community, we continued to work until we could get that large testimony to Dr. King. And really it was done because the idea was we need to have symbolism. We need to be able to have places where we can look up and see the presence of the African-American contribution, not just to this city, but to this country as a whole. I believe that arts is a significant contributor to that. For years over in Park Place on 35th Street, I have organized various arts festivals. One of the last ones was the Safe Fest, Scholars Arts and Youth Festival. Teens with a Purpose has come over and participated in that. So I believe strongly in the arts, not only from the perspective of sharing knowledge, but also from the perspective as an economic driver for our city. What's happening right here at Fuse Fest is something that we need to continue to invest in and grow, not only from the perspective of trying to make sure that our children have the opportunity to have their talents in the art, but that they bring their talents home, that they become entrepreneurs, that they build and help to grow our city into a creative place where we can all economically prosper.
At this time, I want to open it up for anyone in the crowd. If they have any questions.
You can step up to the mic. Go ahead and ask your questions if you have one, Mr. Rodney.
Don't be scared. Come on.
No questions, nobody?
Come on, step up to the mic.
We got one.
When it comes to the younger generation in this city, what is something that you care about most?
The question, if you didn't hear it, the question was, when it comes to the young generation, what is it that I care about most? Well, one thing you can see on my grandson's shirt is the right to read. I think education is extremely important. We have to make sure that our children not only can read exceptionally well, but that they have culturally affirming literature that uplifts them, that they see themselves in the books that we teach, that we are teaching the history that is accurate, that we deal with unhidden truths or deal with hidden truths and making them unhidden and discovering them. So that's one thing. I already mentioned earlier about being able to have, yes. Okay, all right, we'll let you answer in a minute. That we have safe and prosperous communities. It is unfortunate and it is really devastating, some of the things that our young people are exposed to. So I believe in something called the Popsicle Index, and that is the percentage of parents who believe that their child can leave out their home, walk to the corner store, get a popsicle, get a soda, get something, and come back home safely. So I believe we have to have neighborhoods where our young people are valued and that our safety and our economic policy, our education policy is geared around your growth and your prosperity. I believe traditionally, at one time, it was very much in our culture that you look for the children. Used this old saying, proverb that said, how are the children? And I think we need to get back and asking that question, how are the children, and making sure as adults that we're not selfish about our own advancement and not leaving things better for the children that are coming behind us. And I appreciate your question. Oh, and let me share one thing that you may not be aware of. So I currently serve on the school board. And on the school board, we have a youth school board member. That position of the creation of a youth school board member came as a direct result of Teens with a Purpose. I used to be the school board chair in Norfolk. We had a joint meeting with the community over at Ruffner. At that time, it was Ruffner Middle School. And Teens with a Purpose came, and I believe it was Malik Jordan who stood up in the audience and said, how do I get to be on that stage? And so it's because Malik stood up and asked that question that as a school board, we went back and said we were going to have a student representative to the school board so that your voice could be represented there. And so I believe not only do we need to continue to have youth representation or student representation at the school board, I believe we need to find a way to have a student representative on the city council as well. We need the youth voice. We need to hear that youth voice. Believe it or not, my advocacy first started when I was a teenager in high school. It was a march. Norfolk was resegregating its elementary schools. And there was a march at the time. I believe Jesse Jackson came in town and led a march from the zoo down to about to where we are now or to downtown. And I can remember that was the one time that I can remember my parents letting me miss school for something other than illness, and that was to be participating in trying to make sure that we all had equal and equitable access to education. So that's where I would start.
Okay. So anybody else got a question before we wrap it up? Okay, so oh, you got a question? Oh, step to the mic if you can.
Okay, so I know a lot. I'm born and raised in Norfolk, and I know a lot of, I won't say excuses or reasons why some of the people do the things they do. They say, that statement, I'm a project of my environment. So how do you plan to involve, I would say, the positive residents in our city in the decision-making process in our town?
Well, I hear that all the time. There's always been this question of whether or not, what makes a difference, nature or nurture, where you grow up or so forth. I feel blessed in the family that I was born into. But I've spent the last probably 30 years, but definitely the last 10, 15 years working on making sure that we have strong, healthy neighborhoods of choice. There's a program in this city that gets talked about now called Neighbors Building Neighborhoods. All of that came out of work that we led in Park Place. And the work in Park Place came about from us having conversations around, we were having crime in the neighborhood. We had young people who were being murdered in the neighborhood, and we decided we had enough. And we wanted to go about doing things differently. The housing authority came in and told us what to do. The city came and told us what to do. When we would try to fight for opportunities for the neighborhood, it seemed like we were always losing the fight. And the adults came together and said, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We want to do something different. And so we worked together, had some real raw conversations like y'all have here at Teens with a Purpose about what do we value, what do we want, and what do we believe, and what are we prepared to sacrifice to get there. And so as your council member, I would work to grow that model, because at the core of that model, which I think the city has gotten away from, is resident ownership, and residents must lead. We have to shift the practice in this city where everything is top down. I don't like to see people coming down and begging council to solve every problem. We have the brilliance and intelligence in this room. We have the brilliance and intelligence in our community. And frankly, I think that in communities where we have some of the greatest challenges, we have some of the greatest brilliance, because if you can survive and thrive there, imagine what we could do if we have access to capital and access to opportunity. And so I would take that model, resident leadership, resident ownership, being a healthy neighborhood of choice, and having real conversations, house by house, block by block. What is it that we want? What is it that we value? And then be willing to go out and get it. But as part of that, you also have to have the conversations about what is it that you may be willing to lose in that process. And when push comes to shove, do you want it bad enough to have to sacrifice to get it? And I would work to lead us to have the mindset that we would want it bad enough and be willing to accept any sacrifices that are legal and don't cause harm, physical harm, in order to get there.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time, so I just want to give you the opportunity to say one last thing to the voters.
Okay. Well, voting is important. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not important. You can make a difference. But I want to go back to where I started with. It starts in our spirit. It starts in our mind. You know, there's a verse that says that if you say it out your mouth and believe it in your heart and you do not doubt, it will be what you say. The verse doesn't say anything about it being negative or positive. If you think negatively and you believe negatively, we're going to produce negatively. But if you think positively, if you're serious about owning the block, if you're serious about wanting the best for your children, if we're serious about making sure that we can have prosperous communities just like anybody else, then I would ask you to think, as I'm thinking in my campaign, that this is our city and it's our turn. So thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Hey, I appreciate you for coming out here.